Greetings, Black Light, your motivator. This is Elder Black Light. This is the great late Johnny Cochran, O.J. Simpson's trial, comparing those times with today's times. Same game, different name. Eric Holder, the gloves on the other hand now, with Darden. I want you to see all this is concerning the L.A.P.D. How they operate in Cali.
Talked about reasonable doubt. We talked about something that's made this country great, that you can be accused in this country of a crime. But that's just an accusation. And when you enter a not guilty plea, since the beginning of the time of this country, since the time of the Magna Carta, that sets the forces in motion, and you have a trial. That's what this has been about. That's why we love what we do. An opportunity to come before people from the community, the consciences of the community. You are the consciences of this community. You set the standards. You tell us what's right and wrong. You set the standards. You use your common sense to do that. Your verdict goes far beyond these doors of this courtroom. As Mr. Darden said, the whole world is watching and waiting for your decision in this case. That's not to put any pressure on you. Just tell you what's really happening out there. So we talked about all of those things. Hopefully in a logical way. Hopefully something I said made some sense to you. Hopefully as an advocate, you know my zeal. You know the passion I feel for this. We've all got time invested in this case. But it's just not about winning. It's about what's right. It's about a man's life at stake here. So in voir dire, you promised to take the time that was necessary, and you've more than done that.
This is how the L.A.P.D. knock off two black men with one stone.
When you want to think about the depths to which people will go to try to win, when you want to talk about an obsession to win, I'm going to give you an example. There was a witness in this case named Fano Paradas. This is a man who's their man who took O.J. Simpson's blood. This is a man who had a subpoena at one point, said he could have come down there and testified. They didn't call him. So by the time we wanted to call him, he's unavailable because of his heart problem, remember? So what we did was we read you his grand jury testimony, I believe, and we played for you his preliminary hearing testimony. And in that testimony, he was very, very consistent. Been a nurse for a number of years. You saw him. Works for the city of Los Angeles. Says that when he took this blood from O.J. Simpson on June 13th, he took between 7.9 and 8.1 cc's of blood. That's what he said. That's simple, isn't it? We knew that. It's sworn, tell the truth, under oath, both places. Grand jury and preliminary hearing. Pretty clear, isn't it? Pretty clear. Steph, you remember that in my opening statement I told you, I said, you know, something's wrong here. Something sinister is here. Something is wrong. Because if we take all their figures and assume they took 8 cc's of blood, the 6.5 cc's accounted for, there is 1.5 cc's missing of this blood. There's some missing blood in this case. Where is it? Prosecution wants to explain that for you too, make everything real easy for you. So what do they do? What do they do? We've been talking about the police here before, but what do they do? Hank Goldberg, doesn't give us any notice. Goes out there with the video camera with Oppler and this other lady, Miss Ramirez. And they take this bizarre home video of Paradas sitting there talking and mouthing words. It's the most bizarre thing. I mean, as jurors, I'm sure you've seen some pretty high quality testimony here. But this was bizarre. He's sitting there talking about, well, you know, gee, I don't really remember how much I took, and he's going through all these gyrations. It was sad. The depths to which they had sunk to try, as part of this cover-up, to try and convince you that this man hadn't taken 8 cc's of blood. And at the very end of this case, we put in a syringe for you, the kind of syringe they used. And this syringe, essentially enough, has markers on it. Not only, this wasn't a guessing game, it has 8 cc's right on it. I think it was a 10 cc syringe. So he knew what it was taking. But that's the depths to which they will go to try to make it fit. And it just doesn't fit. That's what they'll do. You have to watch them. This is a classic example. You saw it with your own eyes. You heard the testimony. Need I say more?
Manipulating evidence. Manipulating evidence. Same thing with this case here.
If he sees an African American with a white woman, he would stop them. If he didn't have a reason, he'd find one or make up one. This man will lie to set you up. That's what he's saying there. He will do anything to set you up because of the hatred he has in his heart. A racist is somebody who has power over you, who can do something to you. People can have views, keep them to themselves. But when they have power over you, that's when racism becomes insidious. That's what we're talking about here. He has power. A police officer in the street, a patrol officer, is the single most powerful figure in the criminal justice system. He can take your life. Unlike the Supreme Court, you don't have to go through all these appeals. He can do it right there and justify it. And that's why this has to be rooted out in the L.A.P.D. and every place else. Make up a reason. Because he made a judgment. That's what happened in this case. They made a judgment. Everything else after that was going to point toward O.J. Simpson. They didn't want to look at anybody else. Mr. Darden asked, who did this crime? That's their job as the police. We've been hampered. They turned down our offers for help. But that's the prosecution's job. The judge says, we don't have that job. The law says that. We'd love to help do that. Who do you think wants to find these murderers more than Mr. Simpson? But that's not our job. It's their job. And when they don't talk to anybody else, when they rush to judgment in their obsession to win, that's why this became a problem. This man had the power to carry out his racist views. And that's what's so troubling. Let's move on. Making up a reason. That's troubling. That's frightening. That's chilling. But if that wasn't enough, the thing that really gets you, she goes on to say, Officer Furman went on to say that he would like nothing more than to see all niggers gathered together and killed. He said something about burning them or bombing them. I was too shaken to remember the exact words he used. However, I do remember that what he said was probably the most horrible thing I'd ever heard someone say. What frightened me even more was that he was a police officer. Sworn.
So we got at the funeral of Nipsey Russell. Nipsey Hussle, excuse me. You heard those two or three Caucasian police officers talking about how we black people stink.
Oh, man.
They don't want you to believe that the L.A.P.D is racist. But past events show that California is racist. And it's ran by Jews. Jews always have pretended like they were the friends of black people. Like they suffered more than we suffered. Or just as much. Because they white constituents hate Jews. But Jews have been, Zionist Jews have been behind the downfall or the oppression of the black man. Because they know out of all the tribes of the Caucasian race, they know that the black man is God, the original man. Take it or leave it. There's a black light.